to our program. Moving on to our program today, everyone here knows Kersey Antia, so he doesn't need much introduction. So I met Kersey 34 years ago when I went to Chicago, and Kersey was our head mobbit. And one thing I learned about Kersey was he is a very, very humble person. He took time to teach people like me how to pray, and more importantly, how to pray slowly and in sync with Kersey. The one thing you will learn about Kersey is if you are not in sync, he will go like this. And everyone, it's beautiful to hear him pray, and I'm sure all of you, and those of you who have not, you should hear his Gatha recital. It's just wonderful. Kersey, as you know, not only went to Kama Athonan Institute. For those who are on this program who don't know him, he's been here in the United States for a long time. He got his doctorate in psychology and has been practicing psychology ever since. And he's been very actively involved in the ZSE in Chicago. And I don't know what else to say. The one thing that he did tell me when I first met him was that my grandfather was his teacher for prayers. So, Dinsaji Minacharamji. Anyways, that's not the reason why he's been nice to me. He's been nice to everyone. Whoever wants his help, Kersey is always willing to help him. Thank you so much. With that, Kersey, could you please start?
Yeah, start. Shall we start?
Start, yeah.
Thank you very much. And hi to everyone who is joining us. And you know the subject today is Fravashi. I really am scared to talk about Fravashi. Even Mary Boyce, who is the author, is really a great author on our religion. She even says that this is a subject that is really very perplexing. She says it is really perplexing anomalies. And also she says there are insolvable controversies. So you will have to bear with me. I don't think that way, and I will show you how if you bear with me. But all religions do talk about the inner spirit, and Fravashi represents that. Almost all religions, our religion as well as the Vedas, they talk about Pitru, which is very much like the Fravashi. And I was surprised when I'm writing a book about all the influences of a religion, even on other religions, and I was surprised that to this day, to this very day, the Armenians still carry on the concept as well as the prayers for Fravashi. Every year they have 5 festivals, and a Saturday before that festival, they pray to Fravashi. But every Saturday also they pray to Fravashi in their church. Of course, they must have changed to suit it to the Christian form of worship. And I'm writing also our history with Greece. And we had a big history, about 200 years of relations with Greece. And even in Greece, they had this concept about Fravashi. I was surprised, but I'm not surprised in a way, because we really conquered Athens, and we had relations with Greece until Alexander came over. So this is a subject that is universal, and you may think of what really is the Fravashi about. It's about the God's essence in us. I will speak without any notes because I have been trained that way, and I have been talking about it all my life. But when we were in Kama Institute, we were taught again and again one sentence that shows actually the meaning of Fravashi. Even in our Korde Avesta, they had quoted this Bible quotation, which is, know ye know that ye are the temple of God, and the Spirit of God resideth in ye. So that is the essence that Fravashi is talking about. But it got a little complex if you see it from a very scholarly point of view, because scholars always go and have to go by the literary, philological, linguistic uh, witnesses, you know. So there is some contradictions, because the Fravashi goes far even before Zarathustra's own time. Before Zarathustra's time, it was supposed to represent just the heroes and heroic personalities. And then later, there is no reference by Zarathustra in Gathas, at least that's what people think. But I will show you that there is indirect reference, and to me, there is even direct reference, but we will have to wait till I make my conclusion. But this problem of not finding it in the Gathas have misled many people into thinking. But what happened was that the whole concept of Fravashi, which was only hero worship, was what I call Zoroastrianized. It was Zoroastrianized by our learned Dastus. And the first witness of it, the first evidence of it, you can find in Yasna Haptangaiti. But even there are scholarly differences. In Ha 37.3, that it's talk about we worship the Fravashi, Naramcha, Nairinamcha of men and women. But scholars say that the whole sentence is grammatically not correct, which is true. But even so, the most important point is that if they say it doesn't follow the Gothic concept, I would say that as long as we all believe, even up to now, we believe that after Charam, our judgment is done forever. Nobody can change it. So Zarathustra's emphasis on this life really proves that it is in consonance. It may be that sometimes we may have to, as I said, Zoroastrianize after Zarathustra was gone. But I see no point where we don't follow that concept of Zarathustra. Before I go further, I will refer to my very dear friend, my very dear model of scholarship, which is Mary Boyce. I know her for a long time. I was in communication with her, and she was nice enough to even write about my contacts with my brother when he was in England and all that. So I really have very high regards. And I have quoted all the linguistic scholarly things, but I was advised that it will be too much and too high. So I wrote another paper, which I will give it to NMC. I will give both of them. Those who are really interested in linguistic thing and also scholarly thing, they will find everything that's written so far. You know, I cannot give all the things that other scholars say, but I have given the references so people can look it up. But there are different opinions. It starts long ago with a scholar who defined Fravashi as one thing, and then another one defined it as something else. But what I find very interesting is the same word like war. War means choose, but war can also be many other things. War can also say turn away. Like I always see the similarity between Avesta, Sanskrit, Persian, and especially Gujarati. Gujarati is really very close to Sanskrit and Avesta. So var is also means choose, like Swayamvar, if people know about that, choosing by yourself. And also, it also means what we say sometimes, ene varavide, make him turn them into. So there is one word which is defined differently. One of my other very respectable model in scholarship is Harold Bailey. Actually, it's Sir Harold Bailey, but he's very linguistic, very philological, and he doesn't refer it as choosing, but he refers war in a different way, like I said, ward off, and a very level. But I agree with those scholars who see Fravashi in the word fravarti. Fra means forth, varti means choose, making the utmost right choice. And the more I think, not just the read, but the more I think about Zarathustra, I think he was not only a religious teacher, but he was also a religious philosopher of real fundamental importance. And nobody that many years ago, even there is a controversy. Even Boyce wrote at first it was 1800 BC. Later on, she says it's between 1200 and 1500 BC, but it doesn't matter. It's so old. But my point is, even at that time, he could really talk about something that people are still writing about. You will see books and books written about free will and the importance of right choice. I myself have written about it. Actually, I was going to say later, but I may say now, I have written about almost everything that I could, and I'm finding some help to put it on Avesta.org or some computer or NAMC or whatever. But I have it all typed, thousands of dollars it costs, but it still needs some help to be actually put on some kind of internet so people can read it. But this free will is so important to Zarathustra. The very first lecture he says is about free will. Srauta gevush aish vahishta avenata sucha mananga. Srauta suno, hear with your clear thinking, because you have sucha mananga. You have to use the light of your mind to make the right choice. And so on and on, I can go on. I love that choice and I love that whole Yasna 30 Ha. But my point here is everything that Tusra wanted was really put into and digested and gisted in a very little, very small gist into free will. And Fravashi represents that. And I don't know how much time I have, but I know there's so much to talk about that. Now, just think about, why is it so? Why would Zarathustra emphasize the right choice so much? It is because God needs man for really bringing about his purpose. What is his purpose? His purpose is frashokarity. That Mary Boyce often says, frasha almost means fresh. You know, frashokarity means performing, making the world fresh. And what does that mean? Why they say that? Why making it fresh? Because there is a belief that first God made God made this world perfect, but then the Ahriman came in and make it imperfect. So God wants our help to drive out all the evil. It's not an easy thing. And the most difficult thing is to make the right choice. How many times we always succeed in making right choice? It's easier to be said than done, but that's why it is emphasized that we should make the right choice. And how does the Fravashi come into it? Fravashi comes into it, and it's very well written in Bundaheshna. And I want to say something about that. I may digress a little bit about Bundaheshna. It was written like 1200 years after Christ, in 1200 AD. That tells me a lot. That was the time when we got a little break under Caliph Mamun, whose mother and wife were Zoroastrian. We got a little break, so all the Dasturs said we should write down everything we still have preserved before everyone is sort of forcefully converted into Islam. There will be nothing left. So whatever they still had, they put it down in different books. Bundaheshna, Dadestani Dini is even a better one, Zatsparam and all that. So Bundaheshna is not really written in 1200 BC. It really carries all the messages and meanings and philosophy of the earlier times. And in that, there is a beautiful, beautiful allegation, beautiful reference to Fravashi. It is this, that Fravashis were living with Aura Mazda, and because there was no evil at that time, they were perfect. They were free of evil. They were perfect, but they were not perfect as to their capability and knowledge and ability to withstand the evil So our master says, I grant you freedom to stay with me, but then you will be not completely sort of knowledgeable. But if you go to the world and learn to make the right choice and fight the evil and make the world perfect and make yourself perfect, and then everything in the end will be perfect. The whole world will be perfect. Frashokarity will be attained. And the Fravashis immediately, unanimously agreed to go to the world and fight the evil. Many times, like even Mary Boyce and many other scholars sort of object to the Fravashi being just the Fravashi in the sense we take it, because our Fravadim Yas and other Yas also mention that Fravashis also protect the water, protect the trees, protect the world, blah, blah, blah. But it is their function. And it is our function to really take care of every element that good Lord has created in this good world. So I think it's all incorporated into the idea of Fravashi. So if we set aside the linguistic and scholarly objections and see what exactly is going on in our religion over the centuries, then you will see the truth. And it is necessary to find the truth. I found it necessary for me because I realized, and I work in the fire temple too, there was one full year that I took from college so that I can just work and support myself instead of depending upon any trust for scholarships and all that. So I have worked there, but I wonder, except for the boy, most of the work is about the prayers and prayers about Fravashis, you know. Why is that so? It's because man is so much needed and so much important to do the work of God in this world. And by praising the Fravashis of the good who did something good for this world, we are setting example for the future generation. When we pray for Fravashi, we also leave a message for the future generation. And that keeps us strong. And even when I read the Sujidala's chapter on Fravashis, I couldn't quote the whole thing, but in the essence, he says the same thing, that this really is, this is what making the community strong. This has not only is, but this has made the community strong. This kind of following the path of the Holy Fravashis has really been responsible for us, because that means we have to really do good. Even in our ceremonies for Fravashi, we have to, and we are required to do some charities. We have unfortunately stopped observing that custom on Utamna. On Utamna, up to 19th century, we would make a collection for whatever cause was dear to the departed one. And from what they collected, like at Sir Jamsetji Jijibai's Uttamna, they could build dharamsala, they could build water wells, they could build schools and so many things. So this is all connected, and sometimes scholars may not know everything. I am even surprised if Mary Boyce had uh, seen how much we follow the gathas, like the very end of the gathas ends with the same thing I'm talking about. I was surprised myself. You have to completely think about it and continuously think about it to learn the beauty of what Zarathustra says. The last gatha, I call it the last gatha, though the last gatha is 53, but it is a wedding song for Zarathustra's daughter. But the last gatha is 51. And the very last paragraph, I will say it because you would like to hear Zarathustra's own words, which we have kept alive for centuries. And I'll say that now. If I remember it, I love it, so I should. Yeya moi asharthacha vahishtem yasne paiti veda mazdawo ahuro yoi angarecha henticha tayazai kaish namenish pairicha jasai vanta. Pairicha jasai vanta. Let us encircle. Who shall we encircle? Yeya moi asatacha. Whoever has been excellently good, excellently assured among the mortal beings. Let us vaistem yasne paiti. Let us eulogize them. Veda Mazdavo Ahuro, because God knows them. Veda, God knows them. Veda Mazdavo Ahuro, Yoi Angarecha and Ticha. Those who have already existed, Angarecha, and Ticha, those who will come later. Ta Yazai Kaish Namene. And this is very important. This is the crux of my theory here. Namenish, by name, we eulogize them here. Now, if you know, we use the same thing in a Pelvi version, Nam Chesti Anushe Ravan Ravani. That's almost the translation, but people have not seen it that way. There's a beautiful proof here. Another proof here is, like Gata says very clearly, and if somebody cares to put all my writings on the internet, they will read it. Even after I'm gone, they will have the resources to trace it. It says that even Dadar Ormuz makes the choice. Even Ormuz himself makes the choice. And then Zarathustra makes his choice. And Fravashi is connected with the choice. You have to make the right choice. You have to do everything good. So in a way, the same idea is represented by Fravashi. God wills, God chooses his own way, his own chooses the right in his way. Zarathustra chooses and makes his own choice, and so does the Fravashis. And, and in Buddha-Heshna, it's clearly written, they were given a choice. And they unanimously agreed to come to this world and make this world as perfect as we can. So all the evil is removed, and then there will be nothing but beautiful life forever and ever and ever. So that should tell you something. But I didn't rest at that. I went through all the dusturs and what they say about Fravashi. And I was so surprised that not a single dastur has referred to what Mary Boyce's refers. They should know it though, but I think they also know better too, perhaps. You know, who am I to say? But I think there was no reason for them to say, oh, here we find a little controversy. Here we find what Mary Boyce says, insoluble contradiction, insoluble contradiction, but none of that is true. And my revered guru, Dastuji Dabu, I will quote him, but what he says is also repeated by others. Not a single Dastur has even pointed out any discrepancy here. And I will have to read exactly what he said. That's the only time I have to read. I cannot quote everything because lack of time, but I will only quote just a little so it will give you an idea and it will also support what I'm saying. It is the ceremonies for the dead is not meant to seek any absolution from past transgressions, transgressions, or remissions of penalty thereof. This is very important to me. And the Stuji Dabu was also MA in Avesta Pelvi, but also a professor of English. And he would tell us to give him any English word and he would give us the meaning. That's how good he was in English. And that's why his choice of the word absolution is very, very important because it clearly says that the dictionary defines it as the formal remission of sin imparted by a priest, as a Christian priest, as part of the sacrament of penance. We don't have any such thing. We are not really bound by any sacrament and by penance. What we have to do is action, action, action. The Gatha says it very, very well. And I think that's the meaning of the Gathas too. And you will again like to hear it in Zarathustra's own words, and I will say that. Ya Shotna, Ya Vachangaha, Ya Yasna Amere Tatatem, Ashem Cha Tevyo Daunga Mazda, Shatrem Cha Vatato, Esham Toi Yahura, Esham toi hura ema porutemaish daste. Ema porutemaish daste. Let us give it all in full measure. Porutemaish means, temaish means the most. What do we give in full measure? Whatever action, whatever vachanga, the words and prayers and yasna, or Mazda does, we have to copy it and give it back to him in full measure, Paurudaste. Aisham Toi Ahura. That is the wish of Dada Hormas. So what we have to do is give all our strength, almost all our life, all our energy to action, to remove the evil from the world. And that's what the Stuji Dabu emphasizes by saying that. He also quotes the English poem, but in short, I would explain what he says very beautifully. That we have not left and not forgotten the meaning that Gathas say. We never say that praying for Fravashi relieves any of their sins. There is no absolution, leaving anything for Fravashi doesn't mean anything unless we leave our words, our charity, our goodness, Now, even the Stuji boats and other the Stujis, even Jivanji Modi, I have quoted it. I don't think I have time to quote everyone. It's already getting time. But they all say the same thing. But what I was surprised was a scholar that has written so much about Fravashis and also about our religion. He also doesn't refer to any objection that many boys and scholars, not just boys, but other scholars finds. He doesn't even refer to that. And he actually worked with the same school that many boys worked with, And still, he almost sort of agrees with what I have been saying today, I wish I can quote them all in detail, but I will leave all of this in the two essays that I will be submitting to NAMC, and I will really, really appreciate any help anybody can put. All my papers, they are about 2-3 feet high, 2-3 feet high. So you have to have some courage to do that. But one other thing I want to say is, even Mary Boyce herself found that in 1898, even in the villages of Surat and other villages, the Bedins, the laypersons never thought that praying for the diseased people will give them any break. The charum decides everything anyway. Nothing happens after charum too. So on that basis too, I beg to claim that we have never gone against Jatustra's fundamental dictum, I don't know how much time I have. Can anybody enlighten me about that?
Yeah, you still have another 5-10 minutes.
Pardon?
You still have another 5 to 10 minutes.
I have 5 to 10 minutes. Okay. So I would say that if all the people in villages did not know all the grammar, and by 1898 there was some knowledge about a Western grammar, but that was only confined to Kamaji and Bombay people. It didn't come down to the village level. So even there, we were continuously following Zarathustra's own message as well as we can. So that tells us that we really have Zoroastrianized it as well as we can. And there is no reason to stop doing it. We may make it little better. We can make it little more in line with it, like it would be a good idea for every Uttamna to be sort of celebrated with some kind of good work for the memory of the departed. It was a very good custom that we should have continued, and that would have really kept up the tradition. But for all I know, the prayers for the dead is all we have. And like I said, that's all I myself did when I worked in the fire temple. But it has really has helped us. Like Dastuji Dala says, it really made our company, our community great. Let me quote his exact words so you know what it is. The Fravashis represent thee, O Aura Mazda, and keep the living united with the dead. Keep the living united with the dead. We are never separated except in the bodies, you know. The Fravashis bring to us from heaven the united blessings of the dead and take our thanksgivings heavenwards in turn. They have laid the foundation upon which our communal greatness is built. Please understand that. They have laid the foundation upon which our communal greatness is built. This is something to think about. It doesn't appear that way, but when we understand how much we emphasize about our ancestors and their good deeds, and how much we emphasize that they all are guarding us, they are all watching for us, they are all wishing the best for us, then you can realize what the Stuji says. With reverence and affection, let us so live that our living may be an honor to our departed dead, which really induces us to eulogize the virtues of the deceased Fravashis people, and does not imply our prayers and ceremonies could alter the divine judgment meted out to us based solely on the conduct of the earth. I quoted you the last paragraph of the Gatha, and that is my main bulwark of my paper that if in the very end the Shaunam Fravashis are venerated, that has a meaning. And more important is the fact that the last paragraph of the last Gatha is one of the three most fundamental prayers that we have, besides Ashem and Yatha, Yenge Hatam. So Yenge Hatam is the new Avestan or younger Avestan translation of this last Gathic paragraph. But there is one more important change in this. And I think it came because Zarathustra meant it, but it was not written directly. But in Enge Hatam, it says, Enge Hatam Atayasne Paiti Vango Mazdavo Oro Veta Ashathacha Yaungamcha Tascha Tavoscha Yazamede. It says Tascha, the man, and Tavoscha, female. We venerate the Fravashis of both men and women. And Zarathustra has 3 times said that in the Gathas. Actually, in the very last Gatha, which is, as I said, the wedding song, he says very clearly, Itha I Haitya. Haitya means Satya. This Satya, Itha I Haitya, Naro Atha Janayo. This Satya, this truth is equally applicable to men as well as women. So Yenge Hatam brings it out. And our teachers and our Parsis, they even introduce a word for Tavosya in Gujarati, which is tani. And I didn't know it is not a real Gujarati word. So when I was like 27 or so and went to Tata Chemicals in the very, very distant part of Saurashtra, which is almost near Kutch. And I used that word tani, and my assistant says, Doctor, where did you get this word? We don't have that word. And that really impressed upon me the importance in Zoroastrianism of both genders, equal genders. So let me sum up this way, that let us pray to the holy Fravashis of Naramcha, Naidi Namcha, men as well as women, and pray that they continue to really watch us, care for us, and guide us on the right path, and guide us in such a way we finally bring about Frashokarity. So be it. Ata Jamyat Yata Afinami. May it come as I pray. Thank you.
Thank you, Kersey Sahib, for the wonderful talk. There are a couple of questions, and one question from Firdosh, and they can ask themselves, but I'll just read out the questions that I have here.
Can you say it little loudly and slowly? I'm getting deaf by now.
Don't worry, so am I. When and where did the connection between Fravashi and Fravahar come into prominence?
The
Fravashi
difference.
and Fravahar.
What is the question? The Fravashi, and what is the difference between Fravashi and Fravahar?
Yeah, when did the connection come in?
No, that is not the question. The question is, we understand what is Fravashi, we also understand what is Fravahar. But when in our history did this connection start? Was it from the Achaemenid times or before? I'm talking not about Fravashi only. I'm talking about the connection with Fravahar.
Very good question. Very good question. I don't think anybody would be able to say it for sure, but Fravahar is so much like Avestan as well as Pelvi. So it must be sometime in between the time when the old Avestan knowledge was wearing off at the end of the Achaemenian dynasty, and before the rise or at the beginning of the Parthian regime. That's where I see Fravashi may come, but nobody can be sure about that, you know. It's a later word for Fravashi. But when did it come is a very good question. But the best guess would be maybe early in the Parthian rule.
Any,
Well, my understanding is that in Persepolis, there is the Fravashi above Darius sitting on the throne. So we can get the connection there. But is that Fravashi that is shown in that column really the connection between not just the Fravashi, but the Fravashi of Darius?
I'm sorry, I wish I did not have to go into this question. It is a very questionable question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. The thing that you talk about as Fravashi or Farohar is now regarded by many scholars as Quare, as the Quare of the king. The Fravashi concept doesn't fit in. I have written about that too. The idea of every king having a quarry is very, very ancient, even before Zarathustra. And you will see is connected with that bird who protected, I think, Assam. But aside that, you will see the foot of the birds on that inscription, you know. And when they say is Fravashi, some even say it is Aura Mazda. I would not think that Aura Mazda would carry the feet of the birds. It would be connected with it in any way. But that concept of Quare is so important that even the Muslim kings continued to have that concept of Quare. And there are many, many beautiful papers written about seeing it as a Quare. And I think if you think about it, you might also see some validity about it, you know. But that thing, unfortunately, everyone wears, even in Iran, as a farohar, but it's really is a Quare, you know. Apre Quare kahiye, you know. Ask me any question, but you can ask me any other time, and if you can read that, it will satisfy you. There are beautiful papers written lately, though in the beginning we were really misled into believing something else, you know. You see, right, I can see right in your room, the Fravashi there with the feet, you know. That is the ancient bird. It's written in Shahnameh too, you know. Simurg. The bird is called Simurg.
That does not have the feet. It has tassels.
Pardon?
That does not have the feet. It has the tassels. And this was made by my daughter Sherazad out of cross-stitch embroidery. That's what I have put up behind.
I couldn't follow what you said, but
I'm sorry.
usually you can almost see the feet. In all other things, with my poor eyesight and poor hearing, I cannot follow that. But if you see all other pictures, you know, they actually are feet, you
Yes,
know.
even in
See
the
more.
Persepolis above Darius, there are feet in that flower. Even on that carving above Darius in Persepolis, you are right, there are feet. But over time, this Fravahar or picture of what we call the Fravahar has evolved all the way from the Egyptian times to Mesopotamian, Assyrian, Sumerian, whole bunch of cultures, and ended in the Persian side in the end, and modifications have taken place. The original deity or the concept that the Fravahar involved during the Assyrian as well as Egyptian time is that of the sun god Ra. It was considered to be the so-called highest deity of highest importance, and even with in the Assyrian time as Shamash, which is also a sun god.
It was first started in Egypt as Horus, which is sun.
Yes.
And we had imported Egyptian, Assyrian craftsmen. They naturally continued that tradition, but again, like Zarathustra gave the different meaning to the meaning of Fravashi, we gave the different meaning to the figure of Horus and all the other Assyrian things. I have a compilation of all those pictures of Assyrian and Egypt. I had been to Egypt too, and it all started with Horus, the sun. Yeah.
Kersey?
Yes.
Dina McIntyre has a question. Dina, could you please unmute yourself? Dina McIntyre.
Yes, yes.
Dina, please unmute yourself.
I did. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
It's not so much a question as a comment. First, I'd like to say how very happy I am to see Kersey and also to see Dilshad peeping out there from
Same
the
here.
side.
I was going to say the same.
I was doing some research on Mitanni seals, cylinder seals, you know, and the Mitannis were an Indo-Iranian tribe. The names of all their gods were Vedic names, although by the time they picked up the language where they migrated to. And the Mitanni seals also have this winged symbol. So it was a very ancient symbol. And you know how artists are, they see an idea and it gets widespread. So we don't really know where this originated from, and here it's possible that I am not being objective, but Zarathustra's date is a lot more ancient than what the Pahlavi texts say. We know that from linguistic evidence. And it's possible that artists in Achaemenian times took Zarathustra's concept of Fravashi and Kvarena and depicted it as a winged symbol. In Persepolis, there are the winged symbol is both with the king's torso and head, and then there are also winged symbols without the torso and head. And if you read the, I think it's the Siroza, but I'm not sure. It speaks of the glory of the Aryas, the glory being the Kvarena. And it's just my speculation that the ones with the figure was the kingly glory, whereas the ones without the figure was the glory of the Aryas, the people, the rest of the people. That's just my speculation, and I offer it for what it's worth. But I am so happy to see Kersey and Dilshad.
Same here.
I'm privileged to hear you speak today, Kersey. Thank you for such a good talk.
Thank you. You made me think, and you gave me a different idea. I thought about that many times, but I didn't think it exactly like you did. You may have a point. You may have a point. I always wondered why it is one way with the king and one way with somebody who doesn't have that design. So maybe that's a very good hypothesis, at least. I would say that there is definitely some validity to that. So keep thinking like you always do. Okay.
Any other questions from anyone else? If not, I have a question, Kersey. So Kersey, what happens if there is no concept of absolution? Then what happens to a bad person who wants to change his or her life? Then they would say, oh, I am already doomed for failure. So why do I change myself? So we were taught that God judges us by the concept of net good deeds. All of us are not perfect. So all of us have done some bad deeds. So how do you think about that?
I don't follow exactly what you are saying. I'm sorry.
If there is no absolution, means there is no forgiveness. So on the fourth day of judgment, what will happen to people who have committed a lot of bad deeds? And who think, okay, by the time they are 40, 50, they say, okay, I've had a bad life. I want to change my life. What happens to all the bad deeds that they have done on the fourth day?
It's very difficult to say unless you are God. You cannot answer that. But I think that it says that if the balance, it's not just individual actions, it says the balance of all the good deeds outweighs the balance of the bad deeds, then you deserve a good place. When the balance is not that way, that means that you may have committed more than a few things. We all make a few mistakes. We all are human, and mortal. But if the balance of the evil deeds so far outbalances the balance of the good deeds, then only you are sort of put through some trial. But I think the trial also is meant to purify you. It says that all those trials and tribulations are there to purify us. So we again become a show and become perfect and join the rest of the people.
Got it. So we have two more questions and it's past 12 o'clock here. So Firdosh first and then Hosham, that's Anya. Firdosh, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yasuji Sahib, the answer you just gave to Ardaviraf regarding the balancing, etc., then my concern after a lot of reading has been, especially from the Pahlavi times, what is the real meaning of Margazan Guna, which is explained as that guna which will never be forgiven or can never be balanced. But if that is so, and it cannot be balanced, then are we admitting that Hariman is going to be there forever? And if so, how is Prashokareti going to come if Hariman is not going to be gone? So can you help me understand Margazan Guna?
Margazan means somebody that deserves death, murg, mrutyu in Gujarati, the one who deserves death. That must be the really, really bad person, almost Satan on earth, those people would be, from what Pahlavi says, Avesta doesn't say much about it. They perhaps may have written something, but we never could keep it all. But Pahlavi says that in the end, those people would be just suffering. There are two opinions, that they would be suffering forever, and another opinion which sees some kind of Christian kind of compassion in our literature, which says that they all, and I belong to that group which says that they will all be finally forgiven, and they will all join us in Frashokareti. And my own viewpoint is this: when I support this point of view, I support it on another sort of reasoning, that nothing bad can survive after the Frashokareti. The whole world would be beautifully pure like it was before. Even in our prayers, we cannot put anything other than something very good, you know. So from that point of view, I always argue that finally everyone else would be sort of purified in some way, you know, mentally, spiritually, psychologically, and we all will be living in harmony and in happiness. Did I answer your question?
Thank you. Yes, you did most of it. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, okay. I have just two small questions for Dr. Antia, but before that, I would just like to reply to Ardha's question. What I have read is that there's no wholesale forgiveness for sins in Zoroastrianism. The only way you can do so, undo that is by doing more good deeds. And that's how you outweigh the good deeds outweigh the bad deeds. There's no forgiveness or remission. Number one. Now I have two small questions for Dr. Antia. One is, why is on some fire temples you see the picture of the Farohar or the Fravashi with the head and the torso, whereas on some there's only the wings and the middle part and the tail. Number one. And number two, like, who can invoke the Fravashi? Can I do it when I'm praying, or I just can only remember them? And only the Mobbits can do it when they're doing a ceremony with the alats?
No, anybody can do it. I don't know if there were Mobbits in Zarathustra's time, you know. No, everyone has to do it too, you know. And now we have Mobbediars, they do it anyway. So this question doesn't even need my help, you know, just go ahead and pray to yourself, you know, whatever we do, like I quoted from Gathas, that ya shortna, ya vachanga, ya yasna, by whatever action, prayers, deeds, if you can follow and imitate God in any way, you know, go ahead and do it in full measure. You know, porutema is daste. So go ahead, full measure.
I think we have run over time, but there's only one thought that I was taught when I was young by Dasturji Minocharamji. So when I was very young, I'd asked him once, what happens if you do a bad deed? And his answer was, do 3 good deeds.
To do what? Do 3
good deeds.
That's correct. That is
so
correct.
Then when I was older, I said, where did you read that? Where is it in the Avastha? He said, no, I just made up, because if you are doing three good deeds, you don't have time for any bad deeds. Very simple logic. Anyways.
Very good.
So if there are no other comments, I'd like to sincerely thank Kersey, Antia for the wonderful talk and for the discussions. Thank you everyone for joining us. Timtan, anything else you'd like to add, Timtan said?
Well, again, thank you so much, Kersey said, for this wonderful, wonderful talk. We really appreciate that. Also, the talk is recorded, so if anyone needs a link, feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we'll be happy to send it out. And we will keep on informing you of our upcoming events, and do participate and take advantage of this wonderful opportunity that very learned and very highly educated people like Dr. Antia share these wisdom and knowledge with us, and that is of tremendous value. So thank you so much, and thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all.
Thanks to Dilshad for making this happen.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yes,
Dilshad.
yes,
And
Hi,
also,
Mom, Dad.
yes.
and thank you to Mehbad for spending a lot of time in getting this happen. I
And
think
that's
he
what I
has
was
spent a
gonna
lot
say.
of time to fix technical
teach
issues.
me.
So thank you, Mehbad.
Thank you.
Tempton,
Thank you.
Tempton, no Dilshad, no lecture.
Of course, of course.
No, they'll share no food also. So we need.
That's right.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. 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 Bye, Mom. Bye, Dad. Love you.
I
Bye-bye,
know.
bye-bye.
Hey, we have nominated you, by the way.
So,
What?
We have nominated your son for downloading all your stuff.
Yeah. I'll talk to Mayor.
Mehbad, and then we'll figure out how to do this.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll figure out how to do that. I can send you some files, Mayor.
okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's get together on that. Thanks. Bye.